People have been verbally protesting Mike Fry at these city council meetings, doing things like swearing, mooning, things that the city of Frederick just doesn't need, quite frankly.
Humble Levi here didn't bother to tell you he was followed into the bathroom by a gentleman over the Weinberg Center. They're refusing to release public records, so let us identify the perverted old man that followed him into the bathroom and then videotaped him urinating inside of a bathroom, which, by the way, is a crime.
And this is what I think of your legal department here in the city of Frederick.
Good evening, Historic Commission. I thought the city council meeting was actually tonight. But unfortunately, this is what happens when you take the word of 80s sitcom legend Alf. But in any event, the Historic Preservation Commission is actually the perfect venue to discuss the matters that I am going to be discussing tonight. I believe deeply in the historic preservation of records in the city of Frederick, Maryland. Records are what tell the history and the story of any jurisdiction. I am concerned that Michael Fry in the city attorney's office is not concerned with the historical preservation of city records. Here's a quick story. I filed a records request for a simple 4-page historical document back in February. I did not hear back as it relates to that request for many months. I contacted the city legal office, and Mike Fry sent me a letter talking about how he was going to possibly destroy these historical public records. In my opinion, that should concern deeply this esteemed historical board. I always thought that destroying records was a misdemeanor in the state of Maryland, and I told Michael Fry, along with other people who hopped into that same Maryland Public Information request, to use a word that you guys might appreciate: preserve those records. Finally, after months of going back and forth, Michael Fry finally released that simple historical document over to me. I thought it was over, and it should have been over, but however, Michael Fry turned around and filed a request to mediate with the ombudsman with the Attorney General's office. There was nothing to mediate because the records production for the historical document had already been produced at that point. So there was nothing to mediate. When Michael Fry learned that, he turned around and filed a complaint with the Attorney General's Public Information Compliance Board, and that is currently pending as of this moment. The bottom line is, it seems like Attorney Mike Fry is upset that he was not allowed to destroy historical records, and this should concern everyone, this board, the city council, and members of the public. So I am asking the city of Frederick, Maryland, this Historical Preservation Commission, to stop Mike Fry from destroying any city public records in the future if he ever feels like that's the direction he wants to take it. And I'm going to wrap up here right now. But the bottom line is, we need to release the Epstein files, and we need to also release Levi Trumbull's public information requests when he files them. Good evening, Frederick City Council. I will be brief. I was not originally intending on speaking tonight, but what the heck. So in any event, Frederick City was always, well, at least the council meetings, or board of aldermen as they used to be called, they were always fairly, not very much mainstream, sort of flew under the radar. That was until City Attorney Michael Fry came along and certainly changed all of that. He has brought unnecessary and negative attention onto the city of Frederick and onto the residents who live in the city of Frederick, like residents just like myself. He believes that the people work for him. It's actually the other way around. He works for the people of the city of Frederick. Might I add, people in the city of Frederick, people who live in Maryland, who call themselves Marylanders, are entitled to records under the Maryland Public Information Act, which is Title IV of the general provisions of the state of Maryland. And we are entitled to those records promptly, within 30 days, and unless they are protected by state statutes. In response to Michael Fry's recent actions, not turning over public records and fighting individuals in that process, people have been verbally protesting Mike Fry at these city council meetings, doing things like swearing, mooning, things that the city of Frederick just doesn't need, quite frankly. These videos have reached millions of people on the internet. The Frederick News Post has covered them. Esther Francis has done a great job. Fox 5 DC. TikTok is completely lit up with individuals commenting on the Moon Man. The Public Information Accountability or Compliance Board, as I should call it, the people who are handling a complaint filed against me by City Attorney Mike Fry, can do the city attorney's office nothing. They can't tell myself or anyone else in this city that they're not allowed to file public records requests. We have a right to do it. There's nothing that they can do. They're not going to rule in your favor, but even if they did, they can't take away my rights. They can't deprive me of that. They can't do it to me. They can't do it to anyone else, period. So going to the Public Information Accountability Board was, in fact, pointless. With that being said, I would like to now introduce the 80s sitcom legend Alf, who is going to also give his political opinion and redress of grievances of City Attorney Michael Fry. Ladies and gentlemen.
After Alf, we'll have Richard, Tina, then Grady.
I would like to move on to the Michael Fry situation. Recently, he has illegally redacted surveillance footage. Humble Levi here didn't bother to tell you he was followed into the bathroom by a gentleman over the Weinberg Center. They're refusing to release public records to let us identify the perverted old man that followed him into the bathroom and then videotaped him urinating inside of a bathroom, which, by the way, is a crime. They blurred out his face on the surveillance footage when they released it, and they're refusing to release the records to show what the guy's name actually is so that we can hold him accountable, at least in a court of public opinion, if not an actual court of law. So in light of all this malfeasance and misfeasance by Mike Fry and Kimberly Loop and the other people that run the legal department here in the city of Frederick, I am going to artistically express my deep heartfelt beliefs of the government of the city of Frederick currently. And by the way, I just want to point out Michael O'Connor up for re-election. He's super MAGA. President Trump, I believe, actually endorsed him. So remember that when you go to vote. Mayor Michael O'Connor, MAGA, 100%. So anyway, I'm going to artistically express myself. Give me a second to put on my face.
And let me see if I can find my way over here. And this is what I think of your legal department here in the city of Frederick. Thank you.